Hey guys, Hollow1 here. Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys along as I try to convert this gondola car here to a New Haven paint scheme. Alright, so what is this thing? This is Lionel 2043162. It's a 40-foot standard O gondola car in Reading, and normally this would be perfect as is, except there's a couple things wrong with this. The Reading never had 40-foot gonds, as far as I can find, and I think the green paint scheme came, I want to say, in like the late 50s, early 60s. I could be wrong about that, but regardless, I think it's too new for the era that I'm modeling. So I did some digging, and I found that this car is actually modeled on a New Haven 40-foot gondola, and that fits my era, and it actually existed. So that's what I'm going to be repainting this into. So it's going to be black. I've got New Haven decals here. So without further ado, let's get into it. I guess first we should probably take a closer look at this thing. So it is supposed to be carrying coils, which is what these are. These are the metal coil covers. I think I'm just going to put these off to the side. I'm not really a huge fan of the coil covers. I don't know. They're just kind of weird to me, but I'm sure some people like them. So anyway, here's the car. As you can see, it sits about a mile off the ground, so I'm going to need to lower it. The ladders here are cast in, so those are going to need to get replaced. I think on the prototype, these weren't ladders, they were just grab irons, so that's going to be fun. I have stirrups. These came from, I think it was Scale City Designs. I'm going to be using those to replace these molded in stirrups. There's some more molded in grab irons over here. This is going to be interesting because it's molded into the ribbing on the end of the car. I can't just delete on it like I normally would. I mean, like, I can, but it's going to be tricky. There's some more grab irons down here that I'm going to need to replace. I do have, these are, I think it's pronounced Tichy, train group, 18-inch grabs. So that's what I'm going to be using. As for underframe detail, it's like non-existent, but you know, whatever. At least they put the little built by Lionel stamp on the bottom. Not that it's really going to matter because it's going to get painted over anyway, but yeah, so, and then here's the inside. It's just a metal deck. So this whole thing will probably just be black. So, yeah. This is going to be fun. I'm going to get my X-Acto knife out, and I'm going to start by trying to get rid of as much of this molded in detail as I possibly can. I've got some new blades, some new flat blades, which I think will be good for getting this stuff off, but I'll let you know how it goes.
Alright, so here's what I got. I spent a bunch of time on these car ends trying to get it so that I could whittle away the ladder while still maintaining the ribbing. It looks like crap right now, but it's probably good enough. It'll look way better when it's painted. But I gotta file it down still a little bit. There were a couple instances where I took off a bunch of these rivets by accident. No big deal. I've got some Micromark like resin 3D rivets that I can put on here. But yeah, also, I noticed this. So I took the shell off because it's just easier to work with. Lionel LLC, made in China. If I look at the bottom of the frame here, made in Vietnam. So I don't know where these cars are assembled. I would assume in Vietnam because this probably goes on here. But yeah, just thought that was interesting. I don't know if Lionel thinks that they're using it as an advertising thing, where it's like, oh yeah, it's made in Vietnam, not made in China. Well, about that, I don't know. Anyway, let me smooth some of this out here. Grab my pin vise and start drilling holes for the grab irons over here, and yeah, we'll keep rolling. All right, so I've made some decent headway. The reason the letters look like that is not because I sanded them, but because I scraped them with that flat X-Acto blade. These letters, when they're stamped, come off a little bit from the shell, and that shows in airbrushing, like, very obviously. So I just wanted to get this as flat as I possibly could, which I believe it is now. There's a couple little nicks that I took out of it. If I really wanted to, I could go back with some filler and level all these out and sand it down. But that's a lot of work. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say that this is well used and it's been smacked a couple times, which isn't, you know, it's not completely infeasible. That's the big one with that G. That was a loose I-beam, I guess, that fell off of a crane and then landed weird and then fell on the car. But, yeah, you know, it's weathering. So, but here's the handrails, by the way. They look really good. So these are hand bent. If you want to know what distance I'm using for the actual bends, the answer is I don't know. It's one of this width. Whatever, or like half of whatever this width is. So, yep. By the way, that's the Micromark rivets. I'm going back and forth on if I actually want to bother with this or if I just want to say, you know, a couple got sheared off. And then here are, I didn't mention this earlier. These are from K4. These are K4 decals. They look really nice. I'm going to be obviously using the New Haven one because I think the New York, New Haven, and Hartford. I'm not sure if that's newer or older, but I don't like just the letters. I like the New Haven, so that's what I'm going to be using. But yeah, so let me keep going through here and drilling out these holes, which are way too big. So I'm going to need to switch to a smaller bit and putting in these grab irons and yeah. All right, so here's where I think I'm going to call it for tonight. I got the corner steps on, and all of the grabs are on. So there's 20 of them in total. It's probably about a third of the pack that I got. So they look really good. They turned out way better than I thought they were going to, which is a nice surprise. They do sell grabs that are pre-bent, and so you don't have to do the thing with the pliers that I was doing. But I didn't do that, so I had to bend them all by hand. So I think next is I'm going to look through and figure out where I want to add rivets back in and where I'm okay with just leaving them off. And then paint. I'm procrastinating on the whole to lower this. I think I'm just going to have to grind off all of the top of this truck. Also, the big claw coupler is actually cast into the truck frame. So if I ever wanted to 3-rail scale this car, A, I would have to make KD mounts for it, and B, I'd have to get new trucks, which is fine because these ones have cast-in springs and they're cheap. You know, the car was like, I don't even know, $30 or something like that. So anyway, that's going to be it for tonight for me. So I'll catch in with you guys next time I'm on this. So despite the camera making it look like there's a little bit of green in there, those are in fact black. But while that's drying, I need to lower these trucks. And I think the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to cut off the standoffs here
There's one, they're on the top of each truck. As I said, the claws cast in, but if I just cut that off, theoretically that should bring the whole coupler up about whatever that is, a quarter of an inch, eighth of an inch, somewhere around there. The only issue I might run into are the flanges hitting the car body, but as it sits, I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem because of the standoff on the actual car itself. So let me get into that and make a whole bunch of noise. All right, so I chopped them off. I couldn't get them all the way flush. I mean, I can, but I got to this point, and it's been about 45 minutes of me just attacking this thing with a Dremel, because it's all cast metal, and that's really annoying and very loud, and I'm sure I'm irritating the heck out of my neighbors. So that's as far as I'm going to take it. I mounted one of them, and that's the ride height, so yeah, it would probably look better if it was lower, but there's only really so much I can do because there's this standoff on the bottom of the frame, and if I cut the standoff, if I remove the standoff, I'll lose the lip that the screw sits in, and I won't be able to mount the trucks. So it'll probably look better when the frame is on it, but yeah, that's the ride height that it's going to be at, and honestly, it's good enough for me. So, car's back together now, and the ride height is honestly way better than I thought it was going to be. I'm very happy with it. It does rock a little just because of the way that the washers are, but whatever. I have to say, so I wasn't originally going to mention the body filler I used because usually body filler does a pretty crap job of not, causing problems. For example, I can show you this as a slight spoiler. This thing, because this project has taken literally forever. This isn't body filler, this is spackle, because I thought I was going to be clever and save a buck. And no, don't do that, because this is what happens, and it's really bad. I thought that I could get around it just by adding more coats of paint and more clear, and eventually it would stop soaking it up. But no, it just keeps eating it. So now I need to tear off all of these. These are all decaled rivets. So I need to rip all of that up. I need to try and tear out all of the spackle, or at least as much as I can, and then recoat the entire thing, and then sand it down, and then give it a finishing. This is what the 1500 grit is for. Finish it off, and then yeah. That's a different video. That'll come out at some point. But yeah, so what I'm using for this that I actually really like is this Evercoat Body Shop plastic metal. It's meant for metal. It's meant for, like, car panels. But it didn't take up a lick of this paint. Like, you can see a little bit of it here, but that's because I didn't sand it flat. Because I was trying to avoid the rivets. But it's like there's a serious amount of the stuff on the side. You saw it in an earlier shot, and you can't really tell where it is. Like, you can see there's a little bit there, but that's not discolored, that's not discolored because of the body filler. That's just discolored, I think, because of the way that I sanded it and painted it. But overall, I'm very impressed with that. So I'm sure they make plastic putty. Like, to me, it makes a plastic putty that's probably way better than body filler at filling in stuff like that. But it's depending on where you get it from, it can be quite expensive. And this stuff was literally just at Advance auto, and I was just like, okay, cool, let's give it a shot, and I did, and it works. So I'm probably going to try and use that a little bit more. And because it's automotive, I'm not super concerned about, you know, heat cycling and cold weather and that kind of stuff. Whereas like with a hobby grade plastic putty, I'd be a little bit more concerned about thermal cycling and it causing cracks and whatnot. This stuff's going to be climate controlled most of the time, so whatever, but you never know. So anyway, now that I've blabbered on about that, let's do decals. So I'm just going to stick with the numbers that they have here for the New Haven because I really don't want to cut a different number, and if I get another New Haven 40-foot Gon, I highly doubt it's going to be one that I custom paint. So I'm just gonna stick with the default number here. They did give me a little cheat sheet here that I can use to figure out where all the decals actually go, so that's super handy. But yeah, I've never used K4's decals, so I don't know how well they're gonna work, but we're gonna learn together here. So let me get started on this, and I'll let you know how it goes. All right, decals are on, and I mean, minus the super shiny bit, I think they look pretty good. I'm gonna try hitting these with a flat clear and seeing if that knocks down the shine. I was talking with some of my other friends up in the O Scale Club up here, and they say that usually it's better to paint your surface that you're putting the decals on, like a semi-gloss or a satin, before you put the decals on. It just kind of helps blend everything together. Additionally, using some sort of solvent underneath of the decals. This is just water that I haven't. The only time I used micro sol was when I did the bits that go over the rivets, which is why they look the way they do. But if you put that down first, like micro set, which is I think the less extreme version, theoretically it helps get rid of some of the shine. So just some little tidbits that he gave me, but I'm gonna hit this thing with some flat clear after these decals dry, which is gonna take like probably a day or so for all the water to get out from underneath, and then we'll see what it looks like. Also, yeah, you can see where the water was. Sometimes this rubs out, sometimes it doesn't, but oh well, is what it is. Just used way too much water. This is one of the first like full repaints that I've done, so I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but you guys can learn from my mistakes. So with that, I'll see you guys when this is all dry. Okay, so it's been a little bit since the last time I actually recorded this car. In that time, I have gone through and I soaked these decals in microsol, and that got rid of most of the shine and the white underneath the decals, and then I came through with some matte varnish, and that got rid of the rest of it. So I think it looks pretty decent right now. I don't think I'm going to play with it anymore. It's pretty well hidden, the lines for the decals. The small ones, you can still see some of the outline, but you know, there's only so much you can do. I did figure out the correct way of doing it. You are supposed to first paint the model, and then coat it in a gloss clear, let that fully dry, put some micro set where you're going to put the decals, lay the decals on top of the micro set, let that dry enough so the decal doesn't shift around a bunch, and then coat the decal in micro sol, and that will get rid of probably 85%-ish of the decal lines. Because it's on a gloss background, it makes it difficult to see in the first place. But then if you come back over it with a matte varnish, you can completely matte the model, and you won't see the lines that are around the decals or anything like that. It looks really good. I just did it with my Redding Camelback, and I had some really good success with that. So that's the correct way to do it. I'm not going to redo this. One, because it looks fine as is. And two, because this is what you do. You mess it up so that you can learn what not to do, so that your later projects can be better. And so this car will always be a reminder of like, hey, this is the first full repaint I'm doing. I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna leave it the way that it is because it serves as a good reminder to like, hey, here's the process. Don't cut corners. Follow the process. But that's where I'm going to leave it for this car. I do want to weather it at some point, but I want to do a detailed video on that so that you guys can see my technique for weathering. It's very similar to some of the others out there, but I want to document it for you guys so you guys can see the results based on what I do and determine if that is the technique that is right for you or not. Obviously, weathering is a whole open book of different personalities and ways you can do it. Everybody brings their own unique flavor to it, and no two people can weather a car the same way. So it's a very personalized thing. So if you guys base your technique on what I do, it'll probably still look different, but it'll have your own personal touch to it, which I think is really neat about weathering these cars. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something. If you guys have any questions for me about anything that I did, feel free to drop a comment below. If you've got any comments on how the model looks, drop a comment below. I love chatting with you guys. But yeah, anyway, hope you all enjoyed. I am CW Hollow 1, and have a good day, or maybe good night in your case. See ya.